Ladies and gentlemen, here we go with match number 3. This is going to be Sjow from Dignitas against TT Apollo's softball.
Yeah, softball versus Sjow should be a pretty cool TVT. You know, we're going to be starting off on NASL Naga Caverns, man.
Yeah, man.
So this can be a pretty crazy map for TVT because you have that whole center control, which is obviously so important. Those two Naga Caverns, or excuse me, Naga Towers. You end up having those two main attack paths that you end up having to really defend accordingly. Usually most players end up going towards that gold, and essentially it comes down to a war of who can defend their gold while putting pressure on the other player's gold. I mean, you hit the nail right in the head. Getting those Naga Towers are so important on this map. It really represents all the center control and all the attack and defensive capabilities. So basically, if you're in a position where you own both Naga Towers, positionally, you are at a huge advantage, and it really doesn't come down to how many bases you have anymore. I mean, sometimes it does, but really, if you get those towers, it's game over. You basically have all the ways to defend and attack. Yeah, you know, with that map control can just give you so much liberty to know exactly what's going on with your opponent. You know, if you know for sure, okay, my opponent isn't here on the map. You might not know where their army is, but at least if you know, okay, they're not here, they're not going to be attacking through this path, that means I can start going to be aggressive around this other path. It gives you a lot of options available to you, but you know, it looks like we're actually going to be seeing a gas first from softball. What is going? Oh, okay. He actually queued it up from that SCV. I was wondering why it was just sitting there for so long. I don't think I've actually seen people do that before with the queuing. But Sjow instead going to be waiting, going for that barracks first. So of course Sjow going to have that earlier orbital, going to have some earlier Marines, but his factory is going to be a little delayed.
Yeah, and I'm really interested how both these players are actually doing this particular matchup, because there's been such radical changes since the Blue Flame Hellion was changed. And Sjow is definitely a player that relied a lot on his mech. He loved to get those Blue Flame Hellions out. He loved to get the siege tanks, of course, with the leftover gas. We'll see if he actually changed over back to bio or he sticked on that particular composition.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting to see, you know, especially given the fact that he's the one that went barracks first, so it could possibly signify that he'll want to just stay on infantry for a little bit longer. You know, whereas softball with that gas first build will signify that he's going to be rushing that factory as soon as possible. As soon as that barracks finishes, we'll have to see if he does go for the starport as well. A lot of players do like to get just one early game Banshee, go get some guaranteed SCV kills, some scouting information, not necessarily go up to anything like Cloak, but you know, one Banshee, one Viking to deal with drops and opposing Banshees. We'll have to see if he actually ends up going for that. You know, he hasn't put down any second gas just yet, so not going to be any type of quick, crazy rush to Cloak Banshees here. And the factory's about halfway done, so I mean, everything's just looking pretty standard for both these players thus far. The factory has just started for Sjow. We'll have to see if you know, what he adds on to this barracks, or if he's just going to wait and get that starport. In fact, he does throw down the second gas immediately, so we might indeed be seeing a starport coming out from Sjow. Yeah, normally when you get gas this fast, it means you're going to spend on something very high-tech. The most effective high-tech unit there is probably the Cloak Banshee. Of course, a lot of people call it the Dark Templar, but that can fly. It is definitely one of the main damage-dealing units of the game. Shoot guns, man.
I know, and shoots gun. It's a ranged Dark Templar.
Yeah, there you go. That can fly.
That can fly.
It's awesome, man.
I know. I don't hate on it at all. Now we do see that softball is going for this very fast Blue Flame Hellion. He has actually switched off the barracks and the factory, making it just that much faster. The problem is you can't two-shot things anymore with that Blue Flame Hellion, unless it's a Zergling, but we're in the wrong matchup for that. So he's really relying on getting position on all of his opponent's units. We'll see what he actually does. It looks like he's gearing up for some sort of Blue Flame Hellion drop.
Yeah, that is what it looks like. You know, with starport's already about a third of the way done. We also have the starport on the way from Sjow, but it looks like Sjow going to be going for that Banshee tech, and I feel like with that early second gas, I think you're right. I think he's going to be going for that Cloak Banshee. I mean, he already has 250 gas saved up, and his starport's not even complete yet, so Sjow most likely going to be going for that Cloak Banshee play, whereas softball, I mean, he does have the starport, so if he also gets a Viking, he'll be in a pretty good position, but he has to make sure, of course, that he has energy left over available in his orbital command if he's not going to get himself an engineering bay for turrets.
Do you want to mention really quick that softball critically supply capped at the worst possible time, and he was stuck at 27 for quite a long time. It does affect his Hellion count. He's right now at only 3, I believe. He should be approaching 4 a lot sooner, and he should have gotten something like a medevac a lot sooner.
This is a very strange transition here from softball. He's actually throwing down a second starport now. this late in the game. After, you know, he is adding on that Viking, so that will be able to help out against that Banshee until it, of course, has Cloak. But with this double starport play, it looks like he might just be transitioning into a ton of Banshees and Vikings, going for some very heavy airplay. Might even mix in some Ravens into this composition. Meanwhile, Sjow, of course, does have his Cloak about halfway done. The first Banshee just popped out. We'll have to see, is he going to make a second one? Yes, he is. So Sjow committing to this Cloak Banshee play, and you know, we'll have to see how effective it ends up being.
The great thing about Show's build right now, it has so much robust play into it. Getting this Cloak Banshee out against his opponent's build enables him to really get a good scout in. But look at that, Softball's already prepared for something like Cloak Banshees to come. Did he actually scan? No, he didn't, but I guess he just suspects it right now based on the wall and the command center that's over here.
And of course, this is the timing that Cloak Banshees generally be arriving towards your base. So I think he just has this build very well practiced against all types of all-ins. Now he's going to see the Banshee coming down. It does kill off the SCV at the natural command center. It's going to delay, of course, Softball's expansion, but the Viking is attacking the Banshee. There's the Cloak, but the Raven comes out immediately. This Banshee's not going to get many kills at all. It's trying to escape right now, but the Viking, of course, is chasing it down, trying to kill it off. It only has 2 kills at the moment, desperately trying to escape. Looks like it will successfully escape for now, but great defense by Softball. He clearly had a very good timing there and took minimal losses from the strategy from Sjow.
Yeah, both these players are actually approaching their command center pretty fast. One player is putting on the high ground, one player is putting on the low ground. Of course, Softball hasn't yet reconstructed that one command center, so that is quite bad actually. You need to get that ASAP for now. The second orbital command center is coming up for Sjow, and we do see a second barracks going down for Sjow and a third barracks, so he is switching to a bio-oriented build, whereas Softball, this is really, really Ayakoic-like.
Yeah, it's, you know, what's important here is that Sjow with that Banshee, yeah, he might not have gotten many kills, and he's got to be careful that he doesn't lose this second one. He might not have gotten many kills, but he got full scouting information. I mean, his Banshee saw the second starport. That is huge at this stage in the game. Now it looks like the next Cloak Banshee is going to come in, but it will be killed off. So it looks like total he just was actually able to kill off 6 workers between those 2 Banshees. So 33 to 25 right now in favor of Sjow in terms of the worker count. And his expansion is now floating out to land at the natural. Already has his orbital done, whereas, of course, Softball, his is only halfway done. His command center, not even orbital, only halfway done because of all the denying that Sjow did. So good play by Sjow thus far, but of course Softball is going to come in with some air aggression here. Has quite a few Vikings with this army, and I mean, the problem here is, of course, that Sjow has a lot of Marines that is naturally just going to have to pull those into position, but I am definitely expecting, of course, he'll lose this. Banshee will probably take some losses from the SCVs in his main, although actually no, it looks like Softball, instead of going towards the main, looks like he's just going to go for a big attack on the front.
Yeah, and this isn't going to be good because there are siege tanks there. The Hellions come in, and one of them goes down. All of them are badly wounded. Now, finally, a Banshee is going to get in here, but of course, these Marines are going to make them retreat. There's no way that it can continue that fight. Softball is not looking in great position just because he has the delayed command center. On top of that, he does not have an army composition that really deals with this mass Marine tank build.
Yeah, I do like the kind of, you know, transitioning in terms of getting out the blue flame, and you know, that'll help out with those Marines if you can get enough Hellions out. Of course, they were nerfed, but I mean, maybe if he goes ahead and gets an armor, he gets that +1 a little bit later on, that could help him out. But Softball's expansion is done, just getting 1 gas for now. I'm pretty surprised since he's been going for such a gas-heavy build here. There's the second factory now starting for him, but he's going to come into the main here with, wow, he's got 7 Vikings, just 1 Banshee and 1 Raven as well. Drops down 2 auto turrets here. Looks like Show's tanks are going to try to clean those up pretty quickly here. The Marines are forcing these units back, and interestingly enough, you know, Softball does not have Cloak. You know, usually when you go for this very air-heavy strategy, you would get Cloak because, you know, then if your opponent tries to take out your Banshees, they can't, and if they try to use Vikings to take them out, well, you can take them out because you already have that air superiority because of the large number of Vikings you've been producing all game long.
Yeah, and not only that, you do have that Raven capacity. It looks like a Banshee was able to do a little bit harass, but does have to run away because of this huge air force, this armada, I guess, but in the air of Vikings and Banshees. The Vikings are the ones that you have to really be careful of, but here we go, starting to mobilize out, and here's the problem. Sjow is going out here, and his opponent doesn't even know. He won't know until this little scout over here. This scout is able to see this entire army. Now, finally, all the Banshees and Vikings are going to go over here. There's the big stim, kills the Raven. That's a big pickoff, and now he might continue on. I don't think that Softball actually has the means to defend this. This is a really bad position.
Yeah, I don't think so either, man. I mean, not even regarding the unit composition. Look at the food. It's 121 in favor of Sjow compared to the 84 right now of Softball. Softball, I mean, when we look at his army, it just looks really small. He has one tank. Doesn't even, well, there's siege mode just now completing. So he's gonna have one tank in siege mode. He has eight Hellions, soon to be cleaned up pretty quickly by these siege tanks. And of course, all these Vikings that are now forced to land. It's really not just gonna be you know, economically feasible to use ground Vikings versus this type of you know, unit composition. It looks like Softball just unfortunately really unprepared for this.
Yeah, and this is basically an undefendable position. It looks like Sjow is just bearing down on all of these units, and Softball is allowing some of these units to just push forward and actually get picked off. You can see Marines are going to be stimming in here. Siege tank is going to be targeted down. Looks like all the Banshees are targeted down as well. Now only one siege tank on the top ground. He does not put up all of his supply depots, but I don't think it's really necessary. Still, it looks like Sjow is just going to continue on here. He takes out that one tank on the top, but Sjow is going to get cleaned up because those SCVs, they're the ones that are actually going to save him, because of course siege tanks cannot attack too close to you. So we do see that Sjow is going to get cleaned up, but oh my gosh, let's go ahead and look at the units tab. Workers killed is 22, units lost tab significantly higher for Softball, and of course his income, that's just abysmal.
Oh yeah, I mean 56-28 right now, and of course Softballs did look a little bit lower than it actually is since he was transferring SCVs, but still he's way behind right now. He's literally got half the food of Sjow right now. Sjow, I mean, he's look at the ball of production he's putting down. He's got a ton of barracks coming down here at the Natural, another factory as well. He's just pumping out units, macroing like a beast right now, moving out with a huge army yet again. So while Softball was barely able to keep himself alive last time through the use of those SCVs, somehow I don't think it's going to work for him the second time when this huge army comes forward, and all Softball has right now is 3 tanks and 2 Hellions.
Yeah, and Softball is trying to do any form of guerrilla tactics that he possibly can. That's a great way to actually get back into a game. You just keep doing guerrilla tactics, but look at this. Sjow's going to take advantage of his position, and he's actually just going to elevator all these units up into the top ground, make it so hard for Softball to actually defend his production facilities. Now there's the big stim coming in from multiple sides, and the top ground, it looks like all these siege tanks are under fire. GG comes out from Softball.
Yeah, it looks like Sjow was actually able to take game 1 there. You know what I think that entire game came down to is the fact that, first off, you know, I do like what Softball was doing in the beginning. I think he was trying to play to his opponent. He knows that Sjow likes that mech style, and oftentimes the mech style, you know, especially later on, can revolve around who has that air control. So he's trying to start out getting that air control to start off with. The biggest problem, though, was that the Banshee of Sjow walked right by that second starport. So of course Sjow, I mean, you see someone going double port Banshee, or you know, double port whatever it is they're going to go for. You're not going to go Hellion tank, right? So he went infantry instead. He got a ton of Marines, and he was completely fine. Obviously, that style is just not going to be that effective against against infantry play.
You know, and normally I would be scared for Sjow because, you know, there's no reason to really siege up a lot of times. You want to stay mobile. You want to stay a little bit in the map. But Sjow was the one that said, okay, I'm not going to try to take map control, knowing that my army composition is always going to be able to flex and take that map control whenever I want. I'm just going to siege up. I'm going to protect my Marines, and anytime those Banshees come in, my Marines are just going to demolish my opponent. And that's exactly what we saw. Any harass that Softball did 0 damage. Even the auto turrets, maybe those are the only things that did a little damage. The siege tanks outranged them. It's 6 range to 7 range. So he's able to clean that up so easily. Sjow just look in dominating performance, and you know, we're going to be going over to our game number 2 with Softball and Sjow in a little bit. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be back after this break.